2, 1, liftoff. Here we are. Welcome to Intelligent Disclosure.
Hi, everybody.
Sometimes I like to call it ID just to myself, but hey.
Okay, we can call it that.
Why not? So we're happy to be here with you again.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy's like, I need more time. We've got to prepare more, but it's too late. We're going live.
Well, you know, when you start digging into things and it gets more and more interesting and you start going down a rabbit hole, you just want more and more time.
Indeed.
That kind of thing, you know?
But now we're going. So we're going to jump right into this.
Here we are.
We are here to talk about, this is not UFOs, guys. So we want to talk about, this is an idea that I've been working on for a very, very, very long time. Tonight, we're going to call it the new totalitarianism. Sounds dramatic. Well, it is dramatic. But what does that actually mean? So I want to talk about that. We're in the 21st century. We're not in the 1930s. This isn't Stalin's Russia or Hitler's Germany or Mussolini's Italy or Mao's China. You know, totalitarianism might just look a little different. So we'll talk about that and then get into things like 5G, smart cities, and the like. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's go back 20 years to your life. And you're kind of a young hippie-ish type of gal out in British Columbia doing your thing. You're snowboarding.
Hippie-ish.
Did you ever believe that 20 years from now, we would be in a world where we're talking about stuff like this, like where there is a 24/7 surveillance state that will monitor, track you, everything?
Yeah, absolutely no way. I mean, I think back further than that. I think back to Commodore 64. I think back to the way computers used to be. I think back to things were just not connected. You know, people picking up the phone with the cord, having to call each other. If you want privacy, you got to walk around the wall. So, no, everything was so basic, unconnected. Then things started to get connected, right? And it was really,
and it's very seductive.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It was then. So, but looking ahead now, my God, it's, you know, with how much this is going to offer, as we always say, with health in particular, it's going to be hard to resist, and productivity, of course.
And just fun times. There's augmented reality, virtual reality, total immersive virtual reality. And 5G will make it all possible. The surveillance network is in place. Yeah.
And just, you know, when you're making me think back to all the time you spent outdoors before, right? Just something as simple as that. The things that we would go out and do with people, and now we're barely ever even going out.
But guess what? Later, you're going to be talking about how even when you go outdoors, all of that's going to be monitored, tagged, and surveilled.
That's right.
And not just surveilled.
You don't have to go outside for that.
There's going to be little arrows and dots over our heads when people put their little glasses on and all of this other stuff.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, data, that's a whole huge thing. Surveillance is a huge thing. Data is a huge thing.
Right.
It goes on, but we're just standing in this pivotal place right now. You know, we thought everything went crazy from, you know, email and the beginning of the internet, and now
or our little phones, which we thought we have no privacy.
Yeah, right.
This will be a golden era, a golden age.
That's right.
Don't you think?
That's right. I want to talk about that too, where and we were starting to talk about, oh yeah, privacy is a problem with these, but we actually have some control here. So this is my little phone with our little fun thing we put on the back. I just saw it in there.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. So we're moving into it's all happening so fast.
We are moving into something so different, where we're on the cusp of augmented reality, virtual reality, but also augmented reality.
Right.
So, you know, we could get into that.
And how this, my theme, I guess, I would like to get into how this is used. There are positive things, and I don't want to be a total killjoy here, but this is really going to be used increasingly for social control and political control, economic control, every other type of control, I think.
We can see from the very small example that we all probably heard about, Pokemon Go.
Right. That was during the big election of 2016. The whole Hillary Clinton, I'm into Pokemon Go. Yay. Wonderful.
Yeah, sort of rudimentary AR augmented reality, right? And everybody's having fun running all over the place. But then it came out that all these people are just allowing their data to be free and go out all over the place. No privacy.
Like, who could possibly have predicted that?
Anyhow.
So how about I'd like to do my little historical review.
I think we should.
In case you missed the last 200 years, allow me to catch you up. We're going to do a little 10-minute, 200-year review, and then we're going to come back into our own modern era. I've got a couple of notes I've set up here, and I would very much like to review that if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's
stay right here. I don't have any slides to show at this time, but I just want to point out that throughout our history, you go back 300 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, 5,000 years, you could probably make a good case for the fact that repression, not liberty, not freedom, is the rule of human civilization. Because after all, human life has been really hard. It's basically consisted of subsistence farming, peasants, farmers, performing backbreaking labor, working hard just to stay alive, afloat, as it were. And that didn't often succeed either, because even in those situations, famine was always an ever-present reality. You don't think about freedom in a situation like that. You're just thinking about staying alive. And of course, you got to hand over your taxes to the man at the top, the priest, that whole society, taking your hard-earned money and leaving you with little to no freedom of action in your life. What changed? At least I should ask, what changed for much of the world? It's still difficult. That type of life still exists for many people, but it doesn't exist for a lot of other people. And what happened? Well, I think you can go back a couple of hundred years, and there were the theories of people like John Locke and Thomas Jefferson, and those are definitely helpful, but that's not what changed the world. All right, what changed the world, I will argue, I will suggest to you, is the rise of economic opportunity for ordinary people. And I would have to say the primary place where that happened was in the United States, whether they were colonies of the crown or after they became independent. That is, for people who had initiative, who realized that opportunities existed and that there was a new system that evolved, a system, we can say, of entrepreneurship that could actually transform the way people lived. It meant greater wealth, not just for those people, but for really the entire society around them. Because what really ended up happening was that for the first time in human history, a large group of people were essentially unleashed in their economic creativity to figure things out, to come up with new ideas, and essentially to make life easier and better overall for their society. And that's what happened. They called it laissez-faire. That's the French word. And you know what laissez-faire just means? It means let do. Just let things happen. It's like, let people be. Don't get involved. Don't screw it up. Let them be. Let people do their thing. It's really the ultimate statement of freedom. And it allowed people to live their life, to pursue their life as they saw fit. And what followed was an amazing amount of creativity, invention, new ideas, new opportunities that no one could have predicted. That's what it was about. And that idea spread dramatically, not just throughout the United States and North America, but elsewhere throughout much of the world. So what I will suggest here is that the foundation for freedom is economic, first and foremost, not even political, although that's important. Political, economic, intellectual, but economic is the top. So, because after all, it's great to have the right to bitch. That's great. But what's the use if you can't do anything about it to make your own life better, right? So during the 19th century and during the 20th century, we see this as an era marked in the Western world, particularly by a struggle of the people to obtain this greater level of freedom, economic and political. And so there you have it. Now, that all seemed great. I've made this point before, and I just want to make it again. The power elite allowed this to happen. Why do they allow this to happen? Because this unleashing of creativity, this unleashing of freedom, made life better for them as well. Because all those people at the top of our hierarchy want to do is be like gods and live forever and have everything that they've ever wanted and live in total luxury. And when you allow a large middle class of very smart people to come up with all these inventions and all these little gadgets and things like the, you know, Morse code, the telegraph and the telephone and the train, I mean, railroads, and then later with cars and aircraft, and later radios and transistors and integrated circuits, that's what you get when you unleash all of this creativity. So they benefit as well. And it really seemed during that whole period that the word freedom was almost an inevitable connected to the word progress. Like progress meant more freedom, and freedom meant more progress. And then we hit a couple of bumps in the road no one expected. The First World War, devastation, millions dead, the lost generation, all these young men in their prime of life just cut down. That was a problem, and that was a great trauma particularly to Europe, and as was industrialization. You get countries like Germany, all right, despite the fact that there were greater opportunities in the early 20th century, there also seemed to some a loss of community, a loss of stability. The old ways became idealized, as they so often are. And where you have in Germany, after they lost that war, the country was devastated, you have this movement, a radical overthrow of the state and the creation of something new, which we will call totalitarianism. And not just in Germany, happened in Italy. It happened in the old Russian Empire when the Bolsheviks, that is the communists, took over. They created also a form of totalitarianism. It happened in Spain, and it was kind of happening in the Japanese Empire. What was this totalitarianism? What are we talking about? All of those societies, we're talking 1930s, basically, were variations on a theme. And the theme was freedom, as many people had understood it, was a problem. Freedom was a problem. In the minds of these ideologues, these totalitarians, freedom created a loss of community. It created a loss of a sense of belonging. Forget the fact, of course, you've got all these people terrified of their governments to speak out. That was the real reason. But the justification, the ideology was, we need to be unified. We need to be strong. All of this freedom is bringing decadence. Now, one of the things that tied all of those totalitarian societies together, in a sense, was the cult of personality. And I will suggest to you that this idea is really confusing us today, because it helps us not to see the totalitarianism as it is developing now. Because like under Hitler, under Stalin, under Mussolini, it was all about the leader. Mussolini was il duce, he was the leader. And under Stalin, go back to the some of the speeches made to Stalin, particularly in his last years. It's unbelievable the way they just lie down and just grovel at his feet. And it's an odd thing. Like, why was that? And my take on it, that why was there a cult of personality so dominant in these totalitarian societies at that time, is that there's this almost religious nature to them. And I believe that creating a cult of personality at that time was a direct replacement of traditional religion that provided a kind of emotional buy-in for people to permit them to say, yes, I'm going to give up all my freedom for this cause. Now, again, it didn't work 100%. Obviously, people generally want their freedom. But if you give them a new cause and you create this cult of personality, that indeed can be seen as an effective way to galvanize the people. So that's totalitarianism. And totalitarianism, I just want to point out, is not the same as any old authoritarianism or any old dictatorship. You know, an old dictatorship or an authoritarian regime basically just wants to stay in power. And they just, you know, they'll allow you to live your life in most of your ways. Just don't criticize them and just allow them to maintain power and have wealth and all of that. Totalitarianism, particularly the 1930s, 1940s version, was way more invasive. And then, of course, under Mao in China after the war, this was a form of government that sought to control your mind in every way. It was totalitarianism that George Orwell wrote about in 1984 when he came up with concepts like thought crime and wrong think and so forth. Totalitarianism seeks to control the totality of your life. Now, by 1945, at the end of World War II, it seemed that all of that was defeated, or at least except for the Soviet Union. But it seemed to a lot of people in the West like, okay, we got a couple of detours, the First and Second World War, and we had all this outbreak of fascism, but we defeated them. And we're going to keep on our path of freedom and progress. I remember as a kid in the 60s, my mother really believed in progress. I grew up with this idea. It's progress. Things are getting better, more freedom, more opportunity, more of everything. And I'll bet you grew up with that as well.
Of course. Yeah.
So what changed? Well, I'm going to give my take on what I think changed, because something did happen. All right. Couple of poison pills were swallowed in the United States. One, after the war ended, we had a CIA that incorporated a lot of those old Nazi scientists and intelligence officers through Project Paperclip. We had a continued militarization of the world in these two armed camps, U.S., the Western, and the Soviet camp, that kind of rained on the parade after the war, so to speak. You have a world of secrecy that had already blossomed during that war and continued. You have additional paranoia, and this is the one time I'll bring up the UFO subject, that happened because of that new phenomenon that had presented itself, that is the UFO phenomenon. And again, for those of you who think that that's silly, get educated on the matter and listen to some other of my lectures or read some of my books. But the UFO phenomenon was indeed one of the creators of black budget culture and of our kind of national security apparatus. So all of that happened. But a lot of the problems were not just political, they were technological. All right. The world was developing systems of mass communication. I mean, you went from newspaper, you went to radio, you went to television, then came the internet. Then came internet version 2, that is, social media. We're going to talk in a few minutes about internet version 3. That's going to be cloud-based. Tracy's going to talk about that. And basically the digitization of knowledge, which has now enabled the ability almost overnight to create a kind of dark dream team surveillance state that Hitler and Stalin and Mao could not have dreamed of. And it's worth asking, and I don't know if it's possible to answer, was all of this by design, or was it by, let's say, default? That is, it is something that just happened as a result of the developing structure of our global society and infrastructure, or was there a plan behind the scenes to make this happen? And I will suspect that the answer is a bit of both. I think there is design and there was default. And then came 9/11. All right. Now, 9/11 was the break, the great break in our kind of our history. And, in the first few years after 9/11, I thought a lot about this, and I wrote an article. It's on my website. I just looked at it today. I hadn't looked at it in years. I called it UFO Secrecy and the Death of the American Republic. And in that article, I coined a phrase, which I thought was kind of pithy at the time. I called it invisible fascism. And essentially, here's the idea. And I want to run this by you. So you're actually going over your notes for the next part here, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I was reading into some other stuff.
Yeah. But I just want to say, in the early years after 9/11, I think I said this to you. I was with Mike and Elaine, my kids, at a park. They were very little at the time. And I was just watching them play with a bunch of other kids. And this is like 2003, 2004. And I'm thinking about the state of the world. And I'm watching them oblivious, of course, having fun, like all the other kids were oblivious to everything going on. And then I looked over at the parents who were hanging out. No one was on cell phones back then, but they were reading newspapers and books and whatever. And I just thought, how many people are aware of the awful state of, post-Patriot Act affairs, lack of freedom, lack of privacy, the kind of revolution that's happened? How many of the kids don't know?
But
Do the
parents
adults
don't
know?
even know. Yeah.
And so it occurred to me, I asked myself, like, could you live in a fascist society and not know?
That is the question.
Right. And I determined that the answer was yes. Like, it is possible. Of course it is. And so I thought, well, that's like invisible fascism. In other words, it's not like Hitler's in-your-face version, with the rallies and the uniforms marching on the street and all of that. It doesn't have to be in your face. It can be silent. It can be sexy. It can invite you in to it. And it certainly can get us away by distraction. And so I wrote that article at the time thinking, this is really the future of what we're looking at. That is a kind of political propagandizing system. But what I could not predict, even in 2005 when I wrote that article, was how the technology was going to continue to develop. This is still before social media.
Right.
This is still before, the really dramatic developments that we're getting now in AI and the robo-apocalypse that's happening. And of course, back in 04, 05, we had just the beginning of the street surveillance cameras that were just starting. They were rolled out in cities. I think Baltimore was one of the first in the US. London was one of the first overseas. And so we were just beginning, and I think it was hard for a lot of us to see just how far this would go.
Right. Yeah.
Like 9/11 was key. 9/11 was key. The Patriot Act was key. All the intelligence acts that followed were key. But my God, like, who could have predicted how social media would be a form of control, censorship, and surveillance over us? That was something that came out of the blue. So,
and I still think people don't even fully appreciate, for example, Facebook, what it really is, what it's really doing.
No, exactly. So what has happened between even then and now that's occurred to me, and I think a lot of people, is people are no longer needed. More and more people are becoming redundant. You've got all the financial stuff, the offshoring of jobs, the robo-apocalypse, the replacement of so many jobs, not just hard, unskilled labor, but more and more skilled labor. If you're a lawyer, you think you have a secure job, better think again. If you're not at the top of the legal profession, if you're just like a regular kind of low-level lawyer, you may be finding yourself having a hard time getting work because the software programs are moving it. Same with accountants. Same with a lot of these other intellectually demanding professions. And so what's going to happen when those people are no longer needed? There's more jobs coming in, but are there going to be enough for everyone? Like, really enough?
How about nurses?
Nurses.
With what's coming down the pipe with technology, you're going to lose a lot of people in that field as well.
Yeah. Right. And so all of this means, and then, this is something I'm just going to share.
Nurses, doctors, the whole field.
This is a screen share I just want to do real quickly. We have a couple of other screen shares we're going to do. This is an article. This is I got this right. Yeah, 400. This is in Fortune. You could see this in a lot of other places. 400 richest Americans own a greater share of wealth than the bottom 150 million. That's a recent article. There's a couple of other studies that have recently come out. This particular one, I was looking at the statistics. They're actually not a whole lot has changed. They talk about the top 0.1% of the U.S. population having close to 20% of the wealth in the country. That's been the case for quite some time. And but it does appear that it's gotten to be more over the last few years rather than less. So there's that. So there's financial control that exists over us. And then let's get into surveillance control, because this is really what it's at. So, they can track your ISP. They track your email, thanks to Edward Snowden's revelations, all collaboration with these government agencies. There's social media control and tracking. And now all the new tech that's going to connect us to the web and to the cloud and to whatever that is, aside from all the video surveillance, facial rec, voice rec, the whole system going in place. Smart cities, we're going to need you to talk about that in a minute. Remember when they were worried about microchipping us? Is that even really an issue? First of all, here's your microchip.
That's right. Yeah.
This is it. And next 5G is going to be an even better microchip. So maybe we should move. The only thing I just want to say here, there's all of these methods of control that are coming online. And I think it's primarily to corral a redundant population.
Right.
So it's through take away financial opportunity. You surveil them 24/7 and make them know they're being surveilled, and instill fear through like the kind of nonsensical propaganda news that we're exposed to. Doesn't help to give people bad food, toxify their food, toxify their culture, toxify their souls with horrible forms of entertainment that I think are socially corrosive. You and I have talked about this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And what do? You do it to create a docile population that's scared, and you destroy
it. Doesn't go anywhere. Stagnant.
Right.
Yeah.
You destroy the idea of self-reliance, freedom, and self-respect. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more.
So you're going to get into social credit system?
Just briefly here, because I think this is a harbinger.
Yeah.
All right. We can let's both.
Yeah.
So that's my little 200-year history in whatever it was, 15, 20 minutes. And we want to move into our era now. So you've all heard about the Chinese social credit system. They're rolling it out now. Here's something I didn't share with you. So I was reading up on this today.
Okay.
So you go to YouTube, and there's a lot of critics of the social credit system. But
course,
if you if you search on social credit system through Google, I discovered this just today.
What happens?
You see articles in the Washington Post and I think Bloomberg, and it's like, social credit system's not all what it's cracked up to be. We're all raging against it, but they're actually defending it now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, they have to, because of what we're going to get into. They have to. They have to start telling us that it's not so bad, because we are going to find ourselves in it.
That's right.
I mean, we are just going to land in it. It is just the way this is going to happen.
We had a Chinese friend we were speaking to earlier in 2018, and we were talking about that system. And I remember thinking, you've got it now, give us 10 years.
That's right.
And we're going to be right there.
But it's not even going to be 10 years.
Right. In the social credit system, if you don't know what it is, so it's like, think of it as like your credit score, but it's not just for your finances. It's for your entire life. It's for your behavior. So you'll get dinged on the Chinese system if you play too many video games, and they'll know because they're rolling out 5G. They got Huawei, which, by the way, no one in the West wants Huawei because it's Chinese rolling out their 5G. We want our 5G because the CIA wants to be able to spy on you. The hell with the Chinese. But if you play too many video games, if you spread fake news in China, they ding you for that.
If you smoke where you're not supposed to be smoking, if you sit where you're not supposed to be sitting, all these little tiny things, jaywalking, of course, we've all heard that, but it's true. Yeah. And going out and saying what you're thinking about on YouTube, dangerous.
Big ding right there for that.
Or the equivalent of, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect way. They say, well, this is to make everyone trustworthy. It's like their own little crazy utopia. It's the perfect way to scare the living hell out of the population to ensure conformity.
Well, yeah, you could just see it, when stories were breaking out in China before, because they were asking people on the street, what do they think about the social credit system? And they, of course, their answers are all being monitored and graded. So they think it's wonderful. And
I love the trustworthiness of our society.
So there's no freedom of speech.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's just insanity. It's nuts. So we're going to see more and more of that. And by the way, like we're seeing a little bit of that happen through the kind of public outing of people, on my view, and through Twitter, through Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else, where you've got like a kind of mob justice mentality that's increasingly, it's almost, remember,
the precursors of what's coming. Yeah.
China did this in the 60s with their struggle sessions.
Right, with Cultural Revolution.
That's right. So we're seeing that's more and more happening, and that's a harbinger, I would say, of a full-blown social credit system. And then the other thing I just want to say in terms of control is the fact that news is controlled. And I do want to do a quick screen share here with you. Again, this is nothing that you guys don't already know, but let me share. Every week there's new headlines, whether it's about Google or whether it's about the tube or whether it's about your friendly Facebook working in order to manage and monitor and censor out what you want to say. Facebook famously now has been working for the last less than a year, I think about a year, with the Atlantic Council. And if you don't know what that is, the Atlantic Council is almost 100% NATO funded. They are hardcore neocons as well. And they are working very closely right now with Facebook in order to make sure that the news you are receiving is safe. Don't you feel safer? Thank you, Facebook, and thanks, Atlantic Council. So this is where we're at here. It's a kind of news control system that I would say, again, who would have predicted this? Here's another one I just want to share. This is this is from today. UK government commission report urges a regulator for tech giants to fight fake news. I've been predicting this for a long time. I think fake news is the new hate speech, in the sense that hate speech for years was the kind of wedge by which governments were able to regulate speech of citizens. That's hateful. You're being hateful. We're gonna deplatform you. Now, increasingly, we're going to see fake news as the point of safety that the governments are going to be regulating. So now how about we talk about 5G? Here's a nice little image I want to share with folks. And I saw this. This is off of Steam It. Check this out. You're living in an electronic concentration camp. Two naked people in bed texting. And the guy's saying, just between you and me. And she's just between you and me. And on the side, you see Google, right? And you see Facebook. And you see over here is the FBI and the NSA and all of this. And they're just completely surrounded.
Well, let's just look at that for a second, because, of course, I'm sure they're making fun of the thing that happened with Alexa in 2018, where a couple was having a completely private conversation. And because, Alexa is listening, but the problem with it, you're supposed to be able to say Alexa, and then, Alexa will listen to what you're doing. But when people are having a big conversation, it's always listening and trying to pick up if you're saying Alexa. So if it thinks that you said Alexa, it begins to record everything you're saying. And then it's trying to guess what you're trying to tell it to do. So in this case, this couple's private conversation gets recorded, and then it gets sent to one of their contacts. So,
whoa.
Yeah. So huge privacy breach. Right. So, with Alexa, there's a huge problem with that.
I mean, now, obviously Amazon's going to say, well, that's just a glitch in the system, and we didn't mean to screw up your personal privacy. And, in this case, they didn't mean to.
Yeah.
But the fact is, all of that information is being connected. It's all being absorbed and taken in. And that information is valuable.
Right. And anything you've ever told Alexa gets stored and is attached to your account and can be accessed from other computers. And so you have this data bank of anything you've ever been looking at or talking to Alexa about sitting there, unless, of course, you know that you can go and delete it. So there's all sorts of issues with that. And then there's the Echo, which then is bringing cameras into your house.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, just, I was just reading something really crazy that these devices can be hacked. So here you have a video camera ability sitting in whatever room you have it in, and you also have a voice recorder. If these are hacked into, you have automatic surveillance. So,
the systems are supposed to be self-contained, basically, for your own.
Well, they're never well, yeah, of course, they're supposed to be
right.
Self-contained. Whatever you tell it, is supposed to be yours. But these are connected to a giant network, and it's using its own algorithms to determine whether it sends it or not.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's a little scary having, and like you were saying before, a lot of things are going under this guise of it helping you. So with the Echo, I was reading this where they're encouraging people to do a lookbook. So you take pictures of what you're wearing every day, and it helps you, remember what were the best outfits and this and that. And you can send off some pictures, and it will return with some advice on your style, So people are using these devices for these. It's something that helps them with efficiency.
But think about this. So that seems like, oh, it's great. You can have your own personal fashion catalog right there. Of course, that goes somewhere.
And expert to help you with what you should buy and what you should wear, and your shape, what you should wear for your shape. I mean, it goes on and on.
There's going to be people out there who want that information.
Yeah.
They're going to use it to advertise and to come after you with their products that they know you're predisposed, and they'll probably be able to create a nice personality profile on you, not just based on your fashion sense, but all of the other things that you're going to be working. Because here's what we're looking at: 5G is here. How about let's get into 5G? I want to share this screen here.
Okay, so let's just start by talking about what 5G is.
Right.
Right.
Did you do that?
Yeah. So a lot of people know, but a lot of people don't really understand what it is. So we have, you could see it up in the corner of your phone. Often there was 2G, 3G, 4G, and now we're at 5G. And basically the G is just generations. We are advancing generations in speed, connectivity, and reliability. Okay. So 5G is so important because it makes such a massive leap in speed from 4G. It's like 100 to 200 times as fast.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Super fast. So what it's doing, it's bringing everything up to the speed of real time. So it's creating this infrastructure where we can take all of this data and move it around so much faster that it is in real time now.
That's incredible.
If humans are moving at processing at 200 milliseconds, was it 200 milliseconds? No, I forget. And yeah, and the real time speed is 1 millisecond. So this is going to allow things like virtual reality. It's going to allow for augmented reality. This is the perfect setup for autonomous vehicles making decisions faster than we can.
I mean, self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars, trains, planes. This will enable
a self-flying plane.
Yeah. Trucks. Okay. We've heard about that as well.
Right.
And this is going to enable things like, here's a situation where, say you have a very specialized surgeon in Singapore, for example, and you have someone who needs that very specific surgery in an emergency somewhere around the world. The fact that we can do this in real time, if there are, if the machines, the robots are available in that other country, the surgeon will be able to do the surgery on that person in real time. Because the other big thing about 5G is that there are no delays.
And it's all through robotics. Is that the implication with the surgeons in Singapore?
In that situation.
Doing an operation on the other side of the world.
In that situation. Just basically, you'll be able to do anything as though you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really taking away the human to human, the need for human to human interaction.
In other words, all of these massive breakthroughs that we're talking about require 5G. That's really what it is.
Yes. So 5G is this incredible speed, and you're not having dropout. You're not having delay anymore. So you can do all these incredible things.
As long as you have enough towers all over the place.
That's right. So that's the other thing that a lot of people are now understanding. The thing about 5G, it uses these super short waves and just about anything breaks it. So it can't go for long distances. So, and this is including going through walls. If it's raining, this is a problem. So you have to have towers everywhere for these super short signals.
I remember when everything was like hardwired Ethernet, you thought, well, that's the fastest.
And we were learning
most
about
reliable.
this. Right. We were learning about this from our friends, Catherine Austin Smith and Jason
Fitz.
Fitz. I'm thinking of Jason Bodden Smith, Catherine Austin Fitz.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we were talking to them and learning a lot about 5G.
Yeah.
And, people were telling us we're going to start seeing these towers everywhere as the infrastructure starts to come into place. And, we didn't really notice it that much. But now, when we drive to New York, for example, we started to notice these trees that aren't really trees.
People are seeing these. You've seen them. You've seen them. You drive along and they're fake trees that look a little bit like trees if you're not looking too carefully, but they're just 5G towers and they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
They are everywhere.
Yeah.
So this infrastructure is going into place. And the other thing is so that, we've all talked about smart devices and it's going to be linking up all of our devices. Right?
So people are worried about the health effects of 5G, and we can talk about that another time. That's a very important thing. That's very, very important. But I think what gets lost in the mix frequently are the surveillance net that is made possible now by 5G. That was not as bad as we think things are. I mean, Edward Snowden told us about all of the massive surveillance from the PRISM program and so many others that were being used to go into our email and our web browsers and our phones. What we're talking about with 5G is orders of magnitude beyond that in terms of surveillance. And we're talking about having smart homes, having your toaster needs to be able to talk to your refrigerator so that they can then plot how to take over the kitchen, I assume. But the whole idea of having all the technology interrelated is through 5G, and it's a way to monitor your every aspect of your life. And so if you think you're being data mined now, all right, this is nothing. What's happening to us now is nothing compared with what's going to happen with 5G. As Catherine said to us, there was a gold rush in 1848. There's a gold rush now. That gold is information. And the corporations and governments want that data about you. It's valuable. And 5G is the way they're going to get it. This is the way to monitor every facet of your life so that there is not a shred of privacy, because it's valuable commercially and it's valuable politically. So there's nothing that's going to stop this rollout.
And we're going to want it. I mean,
they're going to make us want it, right?
That's right. So, for this to work with this in your home,
right?
It's going to require 5G for everything to work. We've all seen those examples of the fridges that you touch them, they're clear, they give you a list of everything that you're missing. I mean, they are smart devices.
Smart devices.
There will also be things, I mean, they're talking about Alexa in a toilet, now.
Yeah, and they're going to use it. Here's the thing.
But there's a reason. There's a reason for this.
I wasn't going to say something bad, I promise.
Okay. I cut him off on purpose there. No, I mean, I remember years ago, Michio Kaku was talking about envisioning the future, and he was talking about these smart toilets that would, the toilet would be intelligent. It would be connected to a network of information and doctors. And when you go to the washroom, it would have the ability to diagnose if you had cancer and really big
other types of illnesses and
health
so forth.
issues. So, again, coming under the guise of this, but what do you have to give up to get all of these things?
That is the issue. Can we talk about the smart cities?
Yes, smart cities.
In Toronto, you've got some notes over there.
Yeah, so there have been some smart cities rolled out.
Or smart city projects, should we say? Because are they
Sure,
fully rolled out
I don't
yet?
think they are fully rolled out yet, but they are in the works. So, Toronto, I know we have some Canadians who are usually in the chat who are from Ontario. And so south of Toronto, the harbor front, you probably have heard, although I phoned my mother to say, hey, have you heard about this? And she had never heard about this. And my mom watches the news every day. So
she knows everything that Trump's up to.
That's exactly what I said to her. I'm like, Mom, you know everything that Trump is doing, and there's something happening in Toronto that there's a huge controversy over, and you haven't even heard the words, the name, not one of these keywords I'm about to say. She said, I have no idea what you're talking about. So there we go. Anyhow, this they want to turn it into a smart city, and basically they're saying, of course,
the only one area, the harbor area, is called Quayside.
Yeah, Quayside.
Yeah.
Spelled Quayside, Quayside. It is a joint effort between the Canadian government and essentially Google.
Yeah, the company's called Sidewalk
Labs.
And they're owned by Google's parent company.
That's correct.
Which is Alphabet.
Yep.
Alphabet Inc.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, they want to create a city that is data-driven, and everything is a smart device, autonomous vehicles. But they're saying, all the signs will be digital. Every single thing will be digital in the home. But they're saying, this will have less of an environmental footprint.
So check it out. Eric Schmidt, who was the CEO of Google, this is what he said here, because I thought this is a really cool thing. It's like the genesis of thinking for Sidewalk Labs came from Google's founders, getting excited of all the things you could do if someone would just give us a city and put us in charge. So that's the vision of what we're talking about, this Toronto area, this smart city. But anyway, you were going to say something about the whole privacy thing.
Well, basically, they're promoting it as it's going to be very helpful because it's going to help with the rising housing costs. It's going to have less of an environmental footprint.
Right, save electricity costs, tap into the grid, you get a smart grid.
Yeah, that's right.
And all of that, right?
Yeah. So they brought in the former privacy commissioner to be a part of this. She wanted to basically bring in protective privacy measures for the people who are living there. Mm-hmm. And what she ended up finding was because everything was data driven, there was absolutely no way for people to be able to give their consent in this 5G smart city.
Because it's too involved, I would assume. It's too complicated,
all of your data is given away, and it's given away also to third parties. So she resigned because you can't have a.
She said something like, I thought this was going to be a smart privacy.
And it ends up being a surveillance city.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so she can't get behind that. So she ended up leaving that. So, this is an example. So 5G is the infrastructure, and then all of these smart devices are what can operate in it. But in order to be in it, there is no consent. There are cameras everywhere that are monitoring you, and they are all networked and have the ability to send anything you do anywhere. Mm-hmm. So there's really no way to know where your data is going in a situation like this. Yeah. Who owns it, where it's going, what you're being recorded, so we are talking about redefining the entire way that we live.
No, absolutely. I wonder if we want to talk about mirror world. Can I show
yeah.
folks? Or did you want to say anything else about this?
5G also is setting the stage for something that is called mirror world.
Yeah, let me share this screen with the folks here.
Okay,
and this is the augmented reality. We've got a couple of video clips we want to show too.
This came out in Wired magazine, I think, today. So basically, as I was saying earlier, virtual reality, you're talking about a reality that is different than your own. With augmented reality or AR, we're talking about your exact reality, but it becomes augmented. So it's reskinned. It is changed. It's a mirror, an exact mirror of our world.
Can we show that video?
Yeah. So here's an example. Which one are you going to show?
I'm going to, well, we got 2 in a row here.
Okay.
And this is the one here.
Yeah, I found both of these, and I think they are.
These are both off of YouTube. So I'm going to just play one. This is only like a 30-second video. So watch very carefully, and maybe you can describe what's happening.
Yeah, this is by Leap Motion. So yeah, so she is standing here. She is going to activate it. This is an augmented reality. She is now in, it has mapped the entire reality around her and is reskinning with a completely different reality. Now here's another one. So this is fascinating. So this guy who's watching is not there. It's connecting to,
right?
He's watching remotely. It's connected to his home. She has just a blank room here, and she is showing a proposal to this person who's nowhere there. This is, again, what I was talking about with the 5G real time, no delay. And here you're connecting all these people from around the world in just a single room for their project.
Exactly.
So, I mean, imagine how convenient that would be. So this is why, again, people will want 5G.
For sure.
It helps.
It makes everything a little bit easier, a little bit happier.
It does. But
happier in the sense of, wow, I can get this done, and it's really cool. Right.
But it's quite a different thing, of course, to choose to have 5G in your house for internet, because you want to stream or you want to watch this, or you decide that you're going to have Alexa, or versus the entire infrastructure, public infrastructure of your city.
Right, because talk about this. This means to have a truly augmented situation, everything's got to be recorded in order to create it. So it's all got to be kind of mapped and digitized.
It's all got to be connected. Data has to be free flowing.
Right.
Our data will have to be free flowing. And again, Pokemon Go was a very rudimentary version of this, where people they had to, in order to say where they were, to be out and interacting, it had to give away their location information. And I'm not sure exactly everything that they were giving away, but it was super controversial because of that. So, and that was just, that much of what we're looking at in the future. So we don't have any control in this new world that we're walking into with technology.
And that's why we want to call it this new totalitarianism. This isn't Stalin or Hitler's totalitarianism. There's no cult of personality needed here. You see, all you need for the new totalitarianism is total surveillance, total information. And when you know that your entire life is monitored, measured, surveilled, rated, graded.
Yeah.
All right. Everything you do, and there is no escape from these because what they're trying to do in Toronto, the Smart City Initiative, they want to do this worldwide.
That's right.
Part of the article.
That's right. When we were talking about social credit system, we would basically be consenting by default to a social credit system of our own. But again, just like you're saying, it would be subtle. We would be choosing it probably based on health reasons, and we just want to stream faster, and we want to work more productively, more efficiently, more effectively, and so we'll want it.
But there's no way to stop it. In fact,
there is no way to stop it. I don't think, even if we wanted to.
I could just
we might think we can, but I don't know.
We have privately put up, but we haven't publicly put out yet. But I think we probably will. Someone wrote to us. Who they were keeping their anonymity, but they're from one city in the United States, and they noticed all of these 5G towers going up all over the place, and this particular person is sensitive to the frequencies, and there are lots of such people. So for this individual, it was a health concern, and so they called the city manager's office and got a voicemail, which was sent to me.
Right.
And with proper editing out of names and altering the voice a little bit, I've got this, and we'll probably put this out. But basically, what the voicemail was from the city manager's office was a very nice person who just said, "Look, I'm sorry. Our city and all cities have no control over the rollout of 5G. It's out of our hands. It's all state and federal mandated, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. We don't even know when they're putting up the towers. All they need to do is apply for a permit. There's no public hearing necessary, and there really seemed to be no way to stop this." And that was a chilling 90-second, very Orwellian kind of situation right there.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we can read all these articles and we still feel a little bit separate from it. We still haven't fully walked into this. But when you hear something like that, it really brings it home. Okay, we don't have control. Our cities don't have control. When you hear this voice message, it really, it's kind of chilling.
You don't need a cult of personality. You don't need a big strongman dictator at the top to have a totalitarian system. So like, we really need to understand this. This is the 21st century. It's not going to look like Hitler's totalitarian system. It's not going to look like that at all. It's a very different thing. It's going to be slick. It's going to get a lot of public buy-in. It's going to have a lot of powerful media pushing it forward to say how much better your life is going to be. And there will be positive things to it. That's the thing. But the price is all of your privacy. And when you have no privacy, how much freedom do you think you have? When you, how much ability do you have truly to question the system, right? Without, it's the nail that sticks out that always gets hammered. And so no one's going to want to be that nail that sticks out. And it's going to get worse and worse in a society where people are no longer needed. And it's more and more the case. You have these Frankensteinian transhumanists saying, "Oh, we'll just give everyone a basic universal income."
Right.
And maybe there is no way around that. Maybe that's what we're up to. If that is where we're at, just like throw away your history. It's gone, because there's no more self-reliance. You're just going to be a ward of the state. And that's not a situation I think anyone, well, I guess I should say it's not a situation that most people would want to be in. I think most people would want to have a semblance of self-reliance and freedom and ability to navigate their own way. But when you're a ward of the state, you get your universal basic income just to keep you quiet, shut you up, give you your toxic food, give you your toxic culture, play your video games, surveil you 24/7. What are you really going to do with your life? You're certainly not going to fight to make it a better place. No way. You're just going to, like Timothy Leary said, turn on, tune in, drop out. For real.
You might be able to forge your HoloLenses, and just lose yourself in your augmented reality.
Can you talk a little bit about that? That's one of the new technologies that you were reading
HoloLens,
about.
I think that's sort of like Google Glass, so it's some sort of glasses, and it will scan where you are in real time, and it will possibly, like we were showing, like reskin and create.
Yeah, but like glasses just like these, like not heavy, not bulky.
That's right. Just like
slick.
And they'll give you information about people either in your reality or people you've put into your reality, but you walking along, and you'll be able to read things about people.
And all of this is for 5G too. You have to have 5G for that to work, because you need that super high speed cloud-based bandwidth to be able to make it all happen.
That's right. The whole thing is about this new push to human computer interface. Instead of us using our little external computer like this, our phones, where it's sort of centralized, it's going to decentralize by having us interface with whatever we need via glasses or whatever.
Internet version 3. This is it.
Yeah, this is sort of like the third platform.
Right.
We had the web at first. The second platform would have been social media. We go to it. We're still sort of controlling
and on our
it.
Phones,
we are interacting with it. But the next wave is an immersive reality interacting with us where every single thing is machine readable. And again, for everything to be machine readable, all of the data must be free flowing. So this is what 5G is all about. 5G is just that infrastructure that allows for this entire new society, essentially, that we're going to be moving into, that has no room for privacy. It just, I can't even imagine how it could be possible.
And just ask ourselves how this will change future generations in their personalities. Like, it's already changing people, I think. But when you grow up into a world where there's little to no opportunity for you to create your own way, there's really no opportunity for you to be private in any way, where you grow up and everything is about you is being monitored and judged and graded and rated all the time. There's no relief from that. What kind of person will that create in a society? Like, that's a really important question to ask ourselves. Do we want to create a society where, like, what kind of personality? Because they're going to be running the society one day. It doesn't sound like a healthy society to me.
I'm thinking about the movie Minority Report right now. But I think it goes way beyond even Minority Report, you know?
I'm just wondering, like, what, I don't know how much more we want to say on this. You may have, if you got more notes, I would say let's toss it out there. But I'm just wondering, like, what is it that people can even do? Is there a way to stop this train that is going full speed ahead to the destination, or is there no way to stop it?
Well, there's some groups that have gathered. You can find them on the web.
Stop 5G? Or?
I think there's a gosh, what is it called? What's
meetups?
No, you can just Google it. 5G
resistance.
Sure, why not?
Why the hell not?
No, but there's a group called Conscious Something that is trying to make people aware about all of this. Then there's that Facebook group, Jason's group.
Oh, right.
EMF Warriors.
EMF Warriors, right.
That's right.
Yeah, but here's the thing. China's going pedal to the metal on this.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
so are other countries.
All of them are. Of course they are.
It's military applications. It's commercial applications. Like, there's too much for them at stake. Like, they're not going to stop this.
Right. This is the data race. This is the data race. So whoever, gets this perfect system to sit on top of 5G, and whoever has it first is going to have so much global power. So right now, that's all it is. I mean, this is push to get this all out there. But it goes way beyond us. That's why I don't know if there's anything we can do. We're talking now like global superpower. Whoever has all of this data, whoever has all of this infrastructure and this AI, what's stopping that? And, when I think about this, and we're talking about augmented reality and how we really see things sort of going in this direction, I think back to what used to haunt me, that I heard Elon Musk saying, 1 billion to 1 chance that this is not some sort
of base reality, right?
Yeah. That this is not, that this is base reality.
That we're all in a simulation.
That's right. That we're all in a simulation. We're like, yeah, as if. However, when you start digging into this and where it's already being used by the military and lots of other places, like the glasses that I was telling you about, we are on a speeding train. And we're going to see a lot of people already starting to really live in a simulated reality more and more, I think is what you're saying. Yeah, that is very obviously so. Yeah. That is the way we're going when we're taking away the phones and things, and we're going to have glasses or whatever, and we can have virtual workstations, virtual job. We don't have to go to the job. We don't have to go. This is going to save companies so much money.
Right. And again, there's an upside to all of this as well as the downside. That's what's going to make it so difficult to resist. And I guarantee a lot of people won't want to resist. And probably, I'm going to hazard a guess, most people will not want to resist. Most people will want this.
Right. And as you say, can you resist? I mean, that was the
Right.
thing with the smart city in Toronto. You know, the questions are coming up of, so do people have to move? Are they allowed to opt out? Can they opt out? So we're going to have to follow this and look into it a little deeper and see what's going on with that smart city. But it was shocking to me, for example, that this is happening. And my mom, who watches the news every single day, had never heard a single thing. She didn't even know what I was talking about. Not, you know.
Well, maybe,
so it's gonna sneak up on some.
Yeah.
Some are gonna want it. We're not gonna want to resist it. And then even if you wanted to, could you?
We could probably take a few questions, but I would just want to wrap up with this. Ask yourself, how much freedom can you really have when you have no privacy? And furthermore, how much freedom can you have when you have no privacy and you're being propagandized 24/7 through a system that is actively censoring your news and spinning your news? And how much freedom can you have in a world where you have no privacy, where your news is being spun at you, and where you are being actively monitored, and you know you're actively being monitored for all of the things you do? Because you can damn well expect a social credit type of system to be coming out here. They won't call it that. They'll call it something else. But in that type of a situation, how much freedom can you or anyone really have? So with that, why don't we probably wrap this up? And I didn't want to end this on a downer. I actually wanted to have some suggestions on what people can do. Yeah. You know, are we just going to recreate the Luddites of 400 years ago and throw wrenches into machinery? Like, that's going to do a lot. Or, you know, opt out into into a hippie commune, an intentional community, and is that really going to work? Or go off into a cave and live there? Is that going to work? You know, you're going to take major hits economically, probably, by opting out of this system. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be increasingly difficult. And I think the only possible answer that, like, if there are responsible people involved in this, probably the best thing that they're thinking, mm-hmm. I'm going to take a wild guess here, is they're going to say, look, it's true. All of your data is going to be collected. Mm-hmm. It's all true. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that we can do is encrypt and safeguard that stuff as best as possible. Mm-hmm. So that
that's a whole industry that's really going to be growing right now.
Right. So the question is, will it be possible to do that, to know that your data won't be hacked or abused by government agencies or corporations or whatever? Like, we don't really have any guarantees about that. Like, but that's the best, like, that's our Hail Mary pass at the end of the game. Like, that's the best we've got, which is that they're going to take our data and not screw with it to take advantage of us. Mm-hmm. So we're in that's the situation we're in right now. Yeah.
I think one of the most important things is we just go in with our eyes open. You know, we know what we're agreeing to. Unfortunately, we're going to have to start reading the fine print for everything, at least for now. So we know how we're giving it away.
No one even reads the fine print of their phone upgrades.
I know. Me too, you know.
Of course, someone's going to write in the comments below that I read my comments.
I know. Well,
there's always someone out there.
Sometimes we do. I mean, we can't possibly read them all. My God, but
it's difficult.
You know, sometimes we do. But we have to keep ourselves as educated as we can on what's going on, where the data is going. But it's tough. This is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. How about we do a couple of questions?
Okay.
Are there any questions? I should say.
There are some questions.
And then we'll do a quick wrap up because we've gone, it's been an hour.
We haven't seen the chat at all. So let's just say hi to everybody because I know you're all here. You're here all the time. We have the greatest people in chat. We have the greatest people showing up, the greatest subscribers, and to everyone who's just tuning in for the first time.
Definitely proud of the quality of people who follow us. I must say, when you really see everyone who comes in live and then the people who provide comments below, it's this, honestly, if there's one thing that is a motivator for us to continue what we do, that's what it is. Just to know that some of the things that we do will resonate with some incredible quality people.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's an amazing thing.
Absolutely.
How lucky do we feel that we're in a position to be able to connect with such amazing people.
Yeah, that's right. When we're reading through the comments, it's like, wow, we're so lucky.
Yeah,
we are so
truly
lucky.
Amazing.
And we try to learn from the negative comments, of course, as well.
So is this something here? So this one person writes, Zan31311. Hey, can I ask a question? And do you think it could get to Mr. Dolan or his lovely wife? I was going to ask to get to buy one of his books. I want one full of his mindset Kontiki. Man, Mr. Dolan, oh, this is a different person. If you want any of my books, like they're all about UFOs, basically. I would recommend, for a starter, anyone who wants to know what I'm about, probably get a copy of UFOs for the 21st Century Mind. I wrote that as the best overview introduction to the subject of UFOs. But it's not just about UFOs. If you know anything about me, I throw all my crazy ideas into all the things I write. And that book is filled with a lot of my best insights into the structure of our society and politics and all of that. But it's a good history of the UFO subject as well.
Okay.
Obviously, start there.
I'm just going to add to, and I'm not doing this as a plug, but on the member site, I try to grab Richard off the cuff as much as I can about all of these different topics so that it's, we cover false flags, UFOs, the whole gamut.
We'll have breakfast. We'll be sitting with some coffee, and I'll be doing my normal rant, which I'll do daily. And this is what will happen. Tracy says, stop. Yeah. I'm like, wait, what?
Let me record the next
hour. And she says, back up and start over.
Yeah.
And then I'll just do that. And that's an off the cuff. And we do have a lot of those, actually.
But I'm just saying that we are appreciative for everyone who comes out to all of the public videos. You do not have to be a member. You get a lot of Richard, more than he's ever put out these days. Free content 3 times a week at a minimum.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So
I enjoy it for now.
Okay.
See what happens down the road.
This is an interesting question from Kontiki Men.
All right, Mr. Dolan, do you have any insights in how far the NRO is involved in the globalization of surveillance? That is a fantastic question. The National Reconnaissance Organization,
the answer, but
they have been classified since 1960, 61, I think, when they were created. Their existence was only acknowledged, I believe, in 1990 or 1991. So they had a secret existence longer than the NSA did, and they officially are responsible for monitoring all spy satellites. In my view, there's no question that the NRO is A, deeply involved in the UFO phenomenon, and B, is like NSA involved in global surveillance because it's all about those satellites. Mm-hmm. And there's yes, there's the 5G network now might surpass a lot of the information that you get with satellites, but most likely I think it will simply supplement and maybe take front row. But I think what the NRO does through satellites is probably going to remain very, very important. But to answer the question specifically, I couldn't say how far or how extensively they are. I wish I knew.
Okay. Let's see.
Anything else here? What can we do? This is from Marte Galbraith. Do you want to read this one?
What can we do to stop moving forward into this new reality? Is there anything we can do? What are you guys doing in your own lives moving forward?
One thing that we had been doing and we're going to be doing again, like we stopped because of business, is we have a little thing we call airplane mode. And it's not just putting our phones on airplane mode, but at a certain time of the day, all right, phone goes off and no one can call us. Mm-hmm. Like, I will definitely say, and I know you can support this, it makes a difference in the quality of your life. You need to be able to shut the world out at a certain time. So if nothing else, and then, spend time with the people you love. Spend time with the people who mean something to you. Mm-hmm. Now, we realize some people live alone, and sometimes, the people that you love you're only going to be able to reach them electronically. So, all right, I get that. So figure something else out. All right, but you've got to find a way to do this to the world and push it out.
Well, I think it's just as important when you live on your own to be able to unplug. It's super important. Otherwise, you're just sort of in this state of constant firefighting, it feels like. You're just reactionary all the time. It seems to me the only time is when you can unplug and be with yourself again. So for us, this is something, we all fall off.
Yeah.
And, when you're working for yourself, you just work all hours all the time. And so we'll fall into that once in a while, but then we'll reset back to this, what we call our airplane mode times. And we will do it during meals when we deem it.
Right.
And we will do it at a certain time of night. And if we aren't on airplane, we will have called that together. Okay, we're going to work late tonight till, we'll work till 1 or 2 or whatever. But
the other thing I would say is avoid, or at least reduce, peel back your time on social media in general. All right. It's a really toxic environment.
We do.
Yeah.
Since you're asking what we do.
Study after study has shown it's a slam dunk at this point. The more time you spend on the social media platforms, the less happy you are going to be. It's true. And why is that? Well, you kind of know why.
Did you just say the less time you spend on social media?
I don't know how to say. The more time.
We know what you mean.
The more time you spend, the less happy you're going to be.
Yeah.
And the way that those platforms are made, and particularly we're talking about Facebook here, there's an addictive quality, and there's a lot of science that has gone into the way to keep you clicking and keep you on there. And I know you all know this.
Yes, we know that the algorithms, of course, are planned to entertain us. It's not necessarily the best information. It's just giving us more of what we like, keeping us in this little loop.
Stay on.
Right.
But what that does, of course, and we all know this, is it creates a kind of toxic
mega bias
environment.
For one thing.
Mega bias, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what we're in a world in the last decade, people get whatever your political opinions, you get triggered by the other side. And this is a lot of this has to do with social media. It's been a poison to the quality of our civil discourse in many, many ways. And the same applies to Twitter, I would say, and a lot of these other social media sites. So I would say, dial it back. Now, it's true. People say, well, wait a minute, Dolan, you're on both of those. I will just say this. I use them solely at this point to promote this, like what we're doing here and the work that I do. And I can tell you, I don't really interact with people in that venue anymore.
We can't.
It's not possible.
It's really hard to.
You can't do it.
I mean, we do sometimes, but it's hard to do it all the time. I mean,
right.
you want to, because of course we want to interact with you, but it is tough. And I know not only we feel that, I know that everybody else feels that too. Your time is just pulled all over the place. And it's tough to focus on the things that really matter. So making a really concerted effort to do that is what we try to do.
Yeah. And we have to work at it, and we're
pretty good,
dedicated, conscious about it, and it's an effort for us. So we're not saying it's easy, but it is absolutely worth it. I can tell you from personal experience, because the fact that we do this, we get the benefit from it in the quality of our personal life.
Yeah.
And so you can do the same. Just you make certain rules, push that stuff out. And I know a lot of you out there are like, it's not practical for me. I can't do that. I live by my phone. I live by. You don't have to. You don't have to. I don't care what you say. It's not necessary. There's a time when you can unplug, and it's more than what you think.
And we wonder why we're in such a state of anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to unplug. Was I talking to my sister and I was just talking about unplugging, and she said, I don't think I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one thing I personally, something that's really important to me. I've done this for years and years and years. Some people know I was a very big meditator. I was talking like an hour to 2 hours without exaggeration. I was super disciplined with it. Over time, of course, you fall off for a certain amount of time, you get back on. But it is harder and harder and harder, even for someone who's done it forever, because you're always in this state, I guess, because of, our phones or all the feedback we get. When a message comes in, it's like we get a dopamine hit. So there's this super addictive quality to all of these things. But I am making more of an effort than ever. It's harder, but I am pushing on myself harder to unplug, put everything on airplane mode or turn it off, and I am returning back to meditation and meditative practices. You don't have, it's all, I don't even know if people who want to meditate, how you could even get there these days, because there is so much of a pull towards social media and everything else. But if you have anything that you like to do like that, I can't say enough about doing your best to return to some time, even if it's a small amount, like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, where you are fully unplugged and you are going back inside yourself. There's this amazing exploration that I have loved over the years, you know, going to the Monroe Institute. You can use binaurals to help you stay focused, but, you know, making it a goal to go through that personal exploration. It doesn't even have to be digging into yourself. It can just be quieting and pushing everything off you for 15 minutes.
Can I share
feels so
one
good
thing with you? I told you this, but no one else knows this. So twice in my life, I went on a monastic retreat.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So once when I was in my 20s and once, I don't know, my mid late 30s, I think. And it was great. Actually, I really enjoyed it in both cases. Two different Benedictine monasteries in New York State, not far from where we are.
Yeah.
So hey, you're getting pretty good at that. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, I go on there, and I distinctly remember the second time I went, and it was like a weekend. It wasn't a big thing. But I will never forget, like, the whole first day that I was there. It's ultra quiet at these places. And all I kept hearing was different, like, music, different songs, like cycling through my head. And it took, because the world that I had just come from was so noisy.
Spinning.
Yeah, it was spinning.
Yeah.
And it probably really took the whole weekend for me to just begin the process of quieting down. I still hadn't gotten there by the time I was ready to leave. So, and now we're in a world where the noise, I think, is potentially greater than ever before.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're talking about getting that quiet space. Like, people are going to have to carve it out. You've got to make conscious decisions in your life to carve space out, to push this 5G invasion, at least hold it off for certain times of the day, because otherwise it's going to be a tough going for all of us. Returning
to that for me is one of the best things I have done. It feels, I can't even tell you how good it feels. It's like I feel we are so far away now from being able to hit a personal reset button where we can go from that sort of anxious state down to this sort of ground level relaxed state. Is so difficult to get there. And meditating or doing something along those lines is sort of the ability to be able to hit your personal reset button. And I found it fascinating to observe the state that my body feels it's in, what it feels like regularly during the day. And then when I hit down to that deep meditation, because I've done it for so many years, how far away we are from that super relaxed state. And we don't even notice. It's just like we're in this buzzing, anxious state.
We got about 6 minutes left. And I just want to say one other thing that you can do. And then there's two other questions I'm looking at here. So we talked about, go to airplane mode, get some quiet time, do some meditation. Actually, it's a great thing to do. Another thing that you can do is do not follow the corporate mainstream news media. Do not follow it at all. And I don't care if you're on the right, if you're on the left, if you're talking about Fox, or if you're talking about CNN or MSNBC, none of them, or even BBC, or if you're Canadian, is it CBN?
CTV.
Canadian Broadcasting.
It's been a while.
CBC.
It's CBC, yeah, that's right.
That's really no better. A lot of people think, oh, well, BBC is good. No, they're not good. CBC, no, not really. I mean, it's not that they don't have some good information there, but no, you've got to, I'm not joking here, avoid the Western-based corporate media empire. All right, it exists as a propaganda tool. You've got to go to alternative sources, and that's tough because there are some good alternative sources and there are some poor alternative sources.
Very tough for people to navigate this these days.
Freedom ain't free.
And still get information.
You've got to figure this out. But I'm telling you right now, if you go in and you start being a purveyor, a normal consumer of corporate establishment, Western news, you're making a big mistake. All right. Maybe it'll change one day. I doubt it. Hasn't been that way for a while. Now, there's two other questions. One person says, Tarka Jedi. Hey, Tarka Jedi. Interesting show. The security state is all wrapped up with the UFO conspiracy. What do you think? Duh. Of course it is. That's why I write the books I write. The UFO phenomenon has been part of, it's not the only part of the security state. It's one very compartmented element of it, but it's important. And I've spent much of my life trying to understand and communicate that. So yes, absolutely. But it's, it's part of a grander picture here. In other words, secrecy is not only about UFOs, of course not, but UFOs is part of that secrecy. And a lot of the people who are involved in the secrecy industry are themselves, in my view, have not the slightest clue of how just important the UFO phenomenon is. So I'll leave it at that. Jonathan Tillman Hay writes, in your opinion, how long have the people at the top been controlling the populace? Look, you ever read Jim Marrs' Rule by Secrecy? It's a very good book. I like it because I don't think it was his favorite book, but it's one of my favorite books of his. Jim started out by saying, look, we know in our world that the president isn't really the guy in charge, right? We know that there's financial power. We know that there's other kinds of movers and shakers. So who are they? And Jim starts by talking about, the Bilderbergers and the Trilaterals and the Council on Foreign Relations a little farther back and all the bankers. And he says, well, how far back does this go? And then he takes his little trip through history, going back through the 17th and 18th centuries and back through the Middle Ages or the Renaissance and Middle Ages and back through ancient times. And in his view, it goes right back to the foundation of our civilization. I would tend to agree. I think overall, we've had hierarchies, we've had elites, they've had their priests, they've had their intellectual foundations, and they rule by mind control. And look, it's not that they're all doing this because they're evil. I think they buy into the fact that they've got a society to run and they've got to get the people to and they end up believing their religions in many cases. So, but the fact is, in all of our history, for most of our societies, there's been this many people who've controlled that many people, and this many people who've controlled that much wealth. And that's how it is. And that's where we're at today. It's no different today. That percentage has its ups and downs. And it's, I don't know where it is in the last 2 years since Trump's been elected, but I do know that through the Bush and Obama years, the income gap definitely widened, and that things definitely got a lot tougher for people. So, and that's probably just continuing for all I know.
I've got two more things for you.
Okay.
Okay. I'm buying your books for the first time. Can I start with AD?
Sure. That's not a bad one at all. I co-authored that one with the excellent Bryce Zabel, who created the TV show Dark Skies. And Bryce and I had a really excellent collaboration for that. It was the best collaboration I could imagine. We did the whole thing. Here I'm talking about Google. We did it on Google Docs, and we both actively collaborated on that book in such a way that it was a true 50-50 effort. And the thing that I loved about Bryce's contribution, there were a lot actually, but as a script writer, as a skilled writer for Hollywood, he had an ability to flesh out situations to make them seem real that I don't have that, and so a lot of AD, it has my analysis, and it has his analysis too, but it has a lot of his ability to kind of bring to life certain scenarios. So it's a different book for me. It's a good book.
And can't people buy the audiobook version of that? Old school though, on CDs.
On CDs.
CDs.
And look,
my laptop doesn't even have a CD player.
Who has CDs anymore?
Who has CD players?
One thing that I'm doing, we're actually setting this up.
We are setting this
We're
up.
creating some audiobooks, and I can't believe I'm announcing this to the public. This is the first time.
I'm surprised you are.
But I will make sure that I'm reading UFOs for the 21st Century Mind as an audiobook. Other books that I've published and or written will not be read by me. They're too long. Volume 2 of National Security State. I'm going to find a reader for it, I think. But for 21st Century Mind, yes, I'm going to read that book, and hopefully we'll have that out this year. Among other projects, got other things going.
Oh yeah, there's lots going on. But
too much.
I think a lot of us, push, push, push. Don't worry, I'm always pushing for the audiobooks because I love them. So it's just, we're a multitasking world these days.
We're in an era too where I was listening to this. This is on, I think it was Rogan and Jordan Peterson, and they were talking about this, and I thought, wow, this is so true. And the statement was, the written word may very well be replaced in our era by videos and the spoken word. Pardon me, as a purveyor of information. For centuries it was books, always books, as the dominant thing. And I, when I wrote my, I had mixed feelings about it.
I know.
I've always,
as an author, yeah.
For years, I entered as a UFO person, as a historian, and I wrote books, and I thought, well, this is how people will understand what I'm talking about. This is how I will communicate with the world, through books, through the written word. And it's something that I enjoy. It's something that I feel that's what I can do well. And I thought, good, I'm an author, I write books. And then here comes YouTube and all the radio things. And I'm realizing this is how people actually know more, not just about me, but about anyone. It's through YouTube and other types of media like that. So it's the spoken word. That's right. And we just have to learn to roll with it. It's an
audio-visual experience now.
We have to roll with it and evolve
more
with
immersive.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the books still are happening. That's never going to stop for me. But, we've had to learn, and I've definitely had to learn, this whole thing is also happening.
Yeah.
And that's also part of the mix now. And that's never going away.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up, we were talking about a 5G video that we're about to release. It's only a couple minutes long.
It's, less than 2 minutes.
Less than 2 minutes. And I think we're going to do that after the show.
Yeah, so stick around. We'll just do it. It's I have it unlisted right now on the YouTube channel. We're just going to make it public when we're done here. It's a voicemail, and I have the permission of the person who sent this to me to post this. I just want to emphasize it here, and I wrote that in the video too. I think they're actually very happy that we're doing this. So all the identities have been protected. The city in question has been beeped out, so you don't know which city it is, but it is a city in the United States. And it was, again, a person who was concerned about the spread of 5G, made a phone call, and the voicemail that you will hear that we're going to publish is the response. And I put in a written text so you can read along with it, and it's easy for you to. And I don't have any other commentary about it. It's just the voicemail. But the voicemail itself, I don't know if you want to say it's chilling, but it's definitely foreboding. It's definitely something that I think is careful. Oh, you're good. You're muted there. It's something that is a harbinger of things to come, and not a good one. So, all right. With that, what do you think?
With that, we just want to thank everybody so much for being here. As always, we are so grateful for you. And we want to thank Pursuing X, who are always with us, helping out in the chat. And
thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. And we have a free newsletter we put out every single week. If you're interested in seeing and keeping track of what Richard is releasing, that is the best way to do it. We update it with events, so all the events are in there. Links to Richard's books, pretty much a one-stop shop for anything you want to know that Richard's doing. We usually
and also this lady right here, she's in there as well. Just saying. We
have all of the free content and all of the members' content, so you can sort of see everything that's going on. And if we ever run contests, we typically run them out of there, and we send them out late Sunday night, usually. Late Sunday night, but it is
sometimes really late.
Yeah, this past week, if you guys thought we didn't do it, we did. We just got it out around 1 a.m. I think. So we got it out to everybody who wasn't in the US and Canada.
Right.
But
anyway, newsletters that you can just freely subscribe to it from Richard Dolan members or Richard Dolan Press, and just click subscribe and you're in.
Otherwise, you can always support us by subscribing to the YouTube channel and turning on notifications, which will help you out on Saturdays. Richard does a live show every Saturday. Right now, he's doing the Project Blue Book mini-series of the real cases of Blue Book. And
that's been fascinating, by the way. I've loved doing that.
That's been a really cool series that you've been doing. So it's just been incredible. And
basically, they've dramatized all of the old cases, or a lot of the old cases. But what I really wanted to do, this is every Saturday, is to talk about the actual cases, which are honestly more fascinating
they are incredible.
than the portrayals, in my opinion. And I'm not trying to knock the show. A lot of people want to knock it. I don't. But I think that the real history is where it's at.
The show is still bringing attention to these cases. So
yeah, that's what I think too.
Everyone can have their different opinions, but still, I think it's still doing the community a service by showing what's going on, and then your mini series showing what actually happened, I think is fabulous. So if you turn on your notifications on YouTube, you'll know when Richard goes live on Saturdays, because typically this one's at 8:00 that we're doing tonight. We do
Eastern
that
time,
at Eastern time every week. The Saturday show is at a random time because it's on Saturday.
And the reason, I'll just tell you right now, is maybe it's a weekend, and it's like when I get it ready. So because I do like to plan it out, I like to do a good job with it. And sometimes it's ready at 2 in the afternoon for me. Sometimes it's ready at 4 in the afternoon for me. So maybe, we can try to make that more consistent. Maybe we want to do that.
We can try. We'll see how that goes. And the very last thing I want to tell you is we have an interview upcoming.
Oh, yes.
That we have pre-recorded with Russell Targ, with the new documentary he has coming out of Third Eye Spies. So we will be releasing that in
a couple of days.
Probably a couple of days.
Soon.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that.
I'm going to tell you, it was a heck of an interview. It was really well done. Russell Targ, he's been interviewing a lot lately, but I'm just going to say I got a lot of fresh information out of him. And then we did a follow-up interview and some more fresh information. So it was all very, very good. That will be out this week. I'm doing an interview. I just did a great one with David Marler. I strongly encourage you to listen to that. Marler is one of the best we have, and not enough people know about him. I'm going to be doing an interview, probably a long one, with Frank Fascino, who is the researcher of the Flatwoods Monster case. I did a whole thing on Flatwoods a couple of weeks ago. A lot of it was based on Frank's research. He caught that. He thought, wow, that's awesome. And we're going to do a real deep interview. And let me tell you.
You guys have been talking so much.
Calls me on the phone. Like I could probably just post our phone conversations.
How about all the pictures? Yeah.
He sent a ton of those. So anyway, Fascino is the bomb. And it ditto, like with David Marler, not enough people know about Frank and his work. He's a great guy, and I know that's going to be a fantastic interview. So we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, so much to look forward to.
I guess that's going to be it.
Oh, and we have a cruise coming up next month, the MUFON cruise. Okay, so that's the last thing I'm going to say.
First one I'm ever doing in my life.
Yeah, second one for me. But so we have that coming up in March. And we also have Alien Con.
Are you mentioning because there's seats left on that? Is that what that is?
I think there's a couple of seats.
So look, do a cruise with us. Come with us to a cruise. We don't even get money out of that. Like if you join up, it's like it doesn't come into our pockets, but keep us company. So look it up.
Small group.
Is it on our site?
It's in the newsletter.
It's in the newsletter. So
and I think it's also
all there
on the events page.
There you go.
Of RichardDolanMembers.com.
Okay.
We hope you all have a wonderful night. It was so great having you. And we thank you all for being here.
Absolutely. And we'll catch you again the next time. Hope this was, I don't want to say enjoyable, because we were talking about a very, very difficult era that we're moving into. It's got challenges, it's got opportunities, but there are definitely challenges. And
we need to know about them.
And we got to go in with our eyes open, not closed.
That's right.
Don't let yourself get seduced by the tech. All right. Just know that it's there as a tool, not just for you, but as a tool against you as well. It's all of those things. So just be aware. All right. That's it.
Keep an eye on those smart cities. Mom, check out the smart city in Toronto.
All right. That's
Okay.
it, everyone. Thanks so much. Catch you next time.
Good night.
Later.
Bye.